The savanna is the largest biome in South Africa. It takes up to 34.3% of the country. Being that it is a diverse plot of land, it ranges anywhere from at sea level to 2,000 meters above sea level. Just as its height is diverse, the savanna's precipitation is as well. It ranges from 235 millimeters a year to 1,000. Forest fires are very frequent. There are over 5,700 species in the South African savanna, showing well its biodiversity. Now you're going to stop and ask how humans could negatively impact this environment, this big open field in Africa. Well, it's actually really simple. Poachers illegally hunting, trapping, and killing endangered animals, running them into extinction. For example, the lion, or the elephant, or the giraffe, and most importantly, the elephant. Mainly because of the elephant's ivory tusks. Ivory is a very hard commodity to come by as it can only be extracted from biological organisms and previously attained ivory. This here is an example food web of the South African savanna. Now here we have an energy pyramid of the savanna. At the very bottom you can see the producers produce about 10,000 kilocalories a year. Moving up to the primary consumers, which in this case are the zebra, they get about 1,000 of those kilocalories. And moving up for the third time to the secondary consumer who eats the zebra, the lion, gets about 100 kilocalories. The spotted hyena of South Africa, which is an owlbear-like predator, is really a carnivorous scavenger, so it feeds on pretty much all meats, living and dead. It also has a competitive relationship with the lion. The spots on its fur, along with its shade of brown, help it to blend in. With its small size, it gives it the better ability to hide and hunt its prey. A behavioral adaptation is that it hunts in packs. Now, it's not uncommon to see a pack of hyenas actually engage a lion in combat. This is because they both eat the same food source, and the hyena needs sustenance, as does the lion. Now here we can see the majestic male lion. Lions live in packs, with one male and many female lions. They are the apex predator of their environment, meaning they are literally at the top of their food chain. They are of the Panthera genus, which hosts 5 of the big cats. It has claws to kill and murder its prey. It also owns a tan pelt to help it camouflage itself with the tan and burned grass of the savanna. Now, an interesting behavioral adaptation is that there is only one male lion per pack. This male lion doesn't really do much but challenge other males. The female lions will actually go out and get food for the pack. The wildebeests, also known as gnus, are a type of antelope. Its large, robust stature make the herd stampedes thunder, confusing and distracting, sometimes even trampling its predators. It hosts a large pair of horns on its head, and this has been known to be used when fighting back against lions. Its large stature and horns are a defensive adaptation against the lion. As you all know, the lions can sometimes be up to 500 pounds, and no one wants to get in front of that, unless you're also 500 pounds, which a wildebeest is. Now here we see the gazelle. These creatures of the savanna are also a type of antelope. Their defensive adaptation is just pure muscle. The wildebeest will stand its ground and fight, but instead gazelles have adapted to run quick, for really long distances. It's not uncommon for a gazelle to out-endure a cheetah in a high-pursuit chase. Gazelles. These creatures of the savanna are also a type of antelope. Their defensive adaptation is just pure muscle. The wildebeest will stand its ground and fight, but instead gazelles have adapted to just run, really quick and for really long distances. It's not uncommon to see a gazelle outrun a cheetah in some circumstances. Now here we see the baby pangolin on the back of a mama pangolin. The pangolin is a small to moderately sized rodent. It is much similar to the armadillo. Like the armadillo, It will roll up into a ball when threatened by predators. It has a long snout and tongue for eating insects, which makes up most of its diet. The pangolin's scales are very strong and in some cases have been used in armors. For example, the Chinese pangolin. The Chinese pangolin wouldn't be caught dead in a savanna, but in some Chinese medieval armors you will find pangolin scales. This is because of the strength and durability of a pangolin's body. Sometimes it will take hours on end for a lion to break open a pangolin's shell. Bermuda grass, which is one of my least favorite grasses, but I'm positive one of your neighbors has it. It's a mat-like grass, and it's not uncommon to find it on football fields. This type of grass could be cut at 2 inches and still refuse to be burnt, as a property maintenance person would say. It grows well under extended periods of warm to hot temperatures with mild winters. Now here we see the baobab. With this tree's towering height, it reaches anywhere from 5 meters to a solid 20. Some of these trees can extend all the way back 3,000 years ago. These trees could hold 40 people inside of their trunk if they're the right size. Their trunk serves as a water reserve, used for extended periods that lack with rain. It will pull water up out of swampy regions, where it's usually found, and store it inside of its trunk. The umbrella thorn acacia. This acacia has a rough feel to its black to gray bark, connotating that it is used to the rough weathering. The older the thorns, the harder they are, and ironically, the newer thorns are often eaten along with leaves. The older thorns are used to deter over-browsing creatures. Now stop and look at this tree. You're going to look at it and think, what are those? Are those cacti on the top of that tree? Well, yes, and this is the candelabra tree. Generally, these grow to an average height of 10 meters. In place where one would usually see leaves at the top of the tree, on the candelabra, however, one will find small cacti-like beings. The white sap, however, is extremely poisonous. It will blister your skin, blind you, or burn your lungs as you inhale its fumes. The tree is basically a living fence with sharp spikes all over. Alright, allow me to introduce you to the taiga of Russia, also known as Siberia. Taiga is actually the Russian word for forest, and because this biome takes up most of Russia, being the largest biome in Russia, and on the planet just in general, one can assume that it's pretty cold and pretty lonely. During the summer, it can be anywhere from -7 degrees Celsius to 21 degrees Celsius. Winters, however, can range from -54 degrees Celsius to -1. Autumn and spring are so short that you can rarely tell that they've passed. 30 to 85 centimeters is the average rainfall for a year in the taiga. Hold up though, what effect do humans have on the situation? Well, it's what I do, cutting down trees. Loggers frequent the environment, cutting down prime wood for lumber mills, removing entire forests at a time, not to mention oil extraction. Now, we're going to kick the taiga off with something a little bit different than Russia. That's right, the North American bald eagle, which is the only eagle unique to America. It can be found only here, in North America. The bald eagle kills its prey by burying its talons deep inside the prey's flesh and ripping it high into the air. It's not uncommon in the taigas of Alaska to find groves and groves of bald eagles, and more importantly, to find them fishing with their talons. Now, here's an interesting fact for all of you commies. The bald eagle is the national animal of America. Whew. After all that freedom, you've got me a little bit tired, so I'm going to have to do some communist stuff right here with this red-tailed hawk. The red-tailed hawk of the taiga is an open country bird, meaning that it scours the land looking for open regions to hunt its prey, eternally circling. In the summer is when it's most found in the taiga of North America, for breeding season. Now, why it's found there during the summer solely is because of migration habits, which is a behavioral adaptation to avoid the cold. And yeah, that's pretty much what the red-tailed hawk here does. Just chase, warm summers. Now, whenever you think of Canada, what's the animal that you think of most? Because I know if you're me, it's the moose, which is the largest animal of the taiga. Due to its environment, it has adapted to have the ability to eat spruce and pine needles. With their natural adapted long legs, they have the ability to fare relatively high streams and, more importantly, snow. Yeah, that's right, it's our lovely school mascot, the brown bear. But in Russia, more importantly, it's called the Kodiak. Brown bears find their home in most of the taigas, where it is an adaptation for their brown fur to blend in better with the wilderness. The Kodiak bear is most likely to be found in Siberia, while the grizzly is found at home in the U.S. Now, they've also adapted to have extremely large claws for trapping and mauling their prey. You'll notice that it can stand up on its hind legs and roar to, drive off varying other competitors for their food. And what is this beautiful creature that you have put right here in front of me? That's right, it's the white Siberian tiger. This tiger finds its home to the treacherous landscape of Siberia. Some of these tigers have naturally adapted to have their white, prestigious fur to blend in better with the snow of more northern taiga ranges. The Siberian tiger is a quick, muscular being, having to be so to kill some of its prey, such as deers. Deers are quick. Now, that Siberian tiger's got to be quicker to kill them deers. I know. I'm putting a bunch of trees in front of you. But here we go. This one's the black spruce. This spruce tree is extremely tall, growing upwards into 25 meters tall. On 4 sides, the black spruce retains prickly spikes. Because of these needles and the layering of them, the black spruce has the ability to survive in extremely cold environments, such as the taiga. It's perfectly fine that you don't like trees, but we've only got about 3 more to go in this biome. Now, this one's the jack pine. Generally, these trees grow to be 27 meters high, with a diameter of 16 to 32 around the trunk. The tree becomes rounder as it grows higher and gets towards the crown. It may usually be found within the semi-cold taigas of North America. Now we have here the Douglas fir. This tree is very thick, ranging anywhere from 60 to 70 meters in height and 1.5 to 2 meters around the base. Now this one you see right here is going to be your popular Christmas tree. At the top of this tree, a cylindrical tip can be found, and on the branches, needles stand out around it. Not as in like coming off the sides or whatever you want to say, but they actually stand out around the tip, and that's what gives the Christmas tree here its specific format. This tree is very dense and just very durable in general. Now, here you're going to see the Scotch pine. And you know what? This tree ain't your Christmas tree. It's got essentially the same adaptations as the jack pine, similar in most ways, between both the needles and the branches, not to mention its flaky, sappy bark. And man, can I tell you, these trees are the worst to cut down in residential areas. You will come home and have pine sap all over you, in places you would never expect. So long story short, don't cut down Scotch pines. Woo! Alright, let's go. Last tree for the taiga. This one's the larch tree. This tree has small branches extending off, containing 20 to 40 small needles. It needs moist soil to live, and the taiga certainly has plenty of that to go around, since the taiga hardly gets large amounts of evaporation, meaning it's a very humid, thick environment. I'd like to say Louisville's worse, but we're pretty even right about there. Just the humidity is horrible. So this here is the chaparral. This biome collectively covers a very small portion of the earth. This is essentially what you think of whenever you think of the Wild West, a large roving environment filled with rodents, shrubs, and a few trees. The winter stays about 10 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, the summer, it reaches about 40 degrees Celsius. Sometimes so hot and so dry that wildfires begin. The main human impact on this environment are humans' buildings, predominantly because it's a relatively barren biome. You know, it just makes the perfect landscape for factories and buildings such as this. I mean, this picture right here is the perfect example of us destroying the environment. Now, here you've got yourself a nice map of all the chaparrals on our sweet planet Earth. You're going to notice that there's not a whole heck of a lot of them. Well, this food web's kind of really poorly drawn, but I don't know why it ended up like that. Whenever I downloaded it, you're going to see that that top box there had mountain lion in it. The lower to the left, it's going to be shrew. A little bit up from that box, you're going to find owl. Now, both of those are going to be fed by the insects. And, you know, deer's going to eat the grass along with the insects. And the mountain lion's going to pretty much eat anything that's not the grass. Now, I don't know why this ended up like this, but, yeah, I mean, I pretty much just covered it right there, so don't worry about it. Now, right here, we're going to see a nice little short, cut, sweet, energy pyramid. You're going to see that the sun produces about a million, whatever the energy units are. I use kilocalories, but I'm not quite sure what the J is. I guess joules. I'm not 100% certain. But anyways, the primary producers get about 10K. The little cricket there, or grasshopper, is going to be eating on that sunflower. It's going to receive about 1K. That shrew, I'm assuming that's what it is, some kind of little mouse is going to be eating that cricket or grasshopper. He's going to release, or he's going to get about 100. And you know that red-tailed hawk right there, he ain't going to get a whole lot. He's only going to get 10. Now, you're going to look right here and say, now, what on earth is that adorable little thing with those giant ears? And I'm going to tell you right now, that is a jackrabbit. Now, in reality, the jackrabbit, it's not really a rabbit, it's a hare. And the distinct difference between rabbits and hares is that hares give birth to youth that, you know, have all their fur and their eyes open. This is an adaptation because the jackrabbit must always be on the move. There's no place to hide in the chaparral. The mother will actually leave the babies at different hiding spots and come back in the evening to nurse them. Due to the extreme temperatures of the chaparral, the jackrabbit can manipulate its body temperature. Now, how it does this is it sends more blood to the ears whenever it wants to be, you know, a little bit cooler, and releases blood from the ears whenever it wants to be warmer. This is mainly used because in an environment like a chaparral, there's going to be a distinct difference between daytime and nighttime. Daytime, it's going to be pretty freaking hot. Nighttime, it's going to be pretty freaking cold. I mean, there's no getting around that. It's basically like a desert. You know. So, that's just how the jackrabbit does. Well, now heck, look at this adorable little creature. Well, it's not really that adorable because it will kill and maul pretty much anything. The jackal is, and mind you, this is a golden jackal, is basically an incarnation of a small wolf. It's got long golden hair and a fluffy tail. Golden jackals are actually one of the few species of animals that mate for life. The mates live together in their own territory, raising their youth. There's 3 stages to the development of the eating habits of the pups. At first, the pups are going to be nursed. Then they're fed on regurgitated food. And lastly, they begin eating solid foods. Because of the nature of the chaparral, and you know, food ain't all that common, the jackal's omnivorous and insectivorous, meaning it'll eat plants, animals of any kind. This includes insects. And you know, it's just going to go hog wild there. Because the jackal can't really take down too much larger animals. You're never, well, I'm not going to say never, but it's hardly ever that a jackal or a group of jackals are going to take on a cougar, which is, a big meat game. Oh my lord, look at this cute little baby coyote. I mean, it's just adorable. I'm going to have to switch the tab. Now, much unlike most other animals, human interactions help the coyote prosper. Wolves, who generally roam many environments, are slowly easing downwards in population, allowing the prosper of the coyote. I mean, wolves, you can find wolves in most North America, and they'll pretty much eat everything. But with the absence of the wolf, most populations are coming back up, and the coyote's kind of stepping in right there. Now, the coyotes, like the wolf, will eat mostly smaller rodents, and if lucky enough, will harass and eat the youth of cougars. However, coyotes will resort to eating large amounts of insects. Similar to other dogs, it sheds, putting on both summer and winter coats. One behavioral adaptation is that they mainly hunt in pairs. However, once in a blue moon, they will hunt in up to packs of 6. Now, these packs don't cooperate and they don't last long. The coyote lives a solitary life most of the times and wishes to be the leader. So if everybody wants a leader or wants to be a leader, we know how that ship's going to end up. It's going to end up like the Titanic. It's going down. And sad to say for the coyote, but the coyote's a lone wolf, so to speak. So don't expect him to cooperate too much with more than. Now, we see this feline right here. Well, let me tell you, there's lots of names for him. He's a mountain lion, he's a puma, he's a cougar, and interesting enough, unlike his feline friends, the cougar can't roar, instead releasing a screech. While the cougar does extremely enjoy deer, it will refer to eating other things, in times of absence of deer. This includes birds and small rodents. Unlike the jackal and coyote, who are a form of scavenger and will eat both dead and alive beings, the cougar will refuse to eat something that's killed by another predator. The cougar does have a habit of scraping leaves over its kill. Now, you're going to look at his fur and you're going to notice that it's white on the underbelly and mostly tan other places. Now, that's just kind of the color of his fur. But the cougar's claws are extremely sharp, and it'll let him scale a tree pretty quick, and with all the muscles. I mean, you'd think that a climber who cuts down trees can scale pretty quick, but you ain't never seen a cougar run up a tree. Now, this odd-looking being is the wild goat. That's right, the wild goat. This is what all the goats would look like if they weren't domesticated and there weren't a couple other species. It can be found in the chaparrals of Spain and Portugal. It's an aggressive creature. Its horns have been adapted for ramming predators who enter their environment, and the wild goat's a herbivore that lives in packs of significant size. So, I mean, you can find 20 of them roaming around pretty much everywhere. And they're actually decently durable. A wild goat could take a roll down a hill, let me tell you. So right here, you're going to see the most wonderful blue oak I've ever had the pleasure of seeing. Me personally, I've never cut down one, though I think it definitely be an experience. Now, the blue oak, which is a tree that can range in the elevation of where it lives, is accustomed to high temperatures. It actually could live in 100-degree Fahrenheit weather for a few days. The expansive root system of the blue oak allows it to live in arid and fire-prone environments. The roots can sometimes tap into rock 80 feet below the surface. That's actually pretty far for a tree's roots. And that's actually a common thing that's found among oaks, is they have roots that will chase water, no matter where that water is. So here we have coyote brush. The coyote brush can be found in pretty much any chaparral, as it takes its shape according to the environment. It's a woody perennial evergreen, meaning that it's green year-round. Just as the coyotes of legend, this plant has some tricks up its leaves. It has a waxy, fire-retardant coating on its leaves, pretty much preventing any chance of a wildfire getting on this plant. I mean, it's Like the coyote's a legend, dude. Some tricks up its leaves. So here's the French broom. Uh, Honestly, I have no idea why it's called the French broom. I'm going to assume because it kind of looked like a broom tool, and it was some French guy that found it, but I don't know. It's often used for erosion control in other biomes. So, like in sand dunes, if you need that to be tightly compacted and hold a micro biome right there, that's the guy that you're going to get. Often the French broom is considered a weed because it grows quickly and spreads even quicker. The interesting thing, though, is that the French broom is considered part of the sunflower family. Now, why? I ain't got a clue. I'm going to assume because of its yellow blooms there, but I don't know. The king protea. Whoa, look at this beautiful plant. Can you see all those little needles? Both found in the savanna and all over the world, the king protea is an extremely versatile plant. The king protea has long, narrow bracts as petals. Uh, they have adapted to take in water through their leaves, unlike most other plants, and that's what allows the king protea to survive in the dry chaparral, is it will absorb water through its leaves. I mean, it's so opposite from other plants because other plants, they transpire. They let water, straight out their leaves. And, if it wasn't for cacti, there'd be like no plants in the desert at all. But the king protea will suck water out of the air. It's the oddest thing. Now here, you're going to see a mythical tree. Well, not so much a mythical tree, but a tree that you've come across in myths many times, and it's the olive tree. Now, I don't know if y'all have ever heard the expression of extending an olive branch, but this is the tree of peace. Now, the olive tree, while not entirely native to the chaparral, are the most cultivated tree in history. This tree can grow in environments with poor nutrients but well-drained water supplies. It requires a slight winter for the fruit to set, and unlike the king protea, when living in arid and dry environments, the olive tree will grow hair and apply wax to its leaves, causing transpiration to slow. So, I mean, it's pretty much your average plant. It's going to adapt like a normal plant. That king protea over there, and it's, taking in water through its leaves, that's just so odd. Like, get that thing out of here. I mean, seriously, that's mind-blowing, mind-boggling how a plant can do that. Alright, so here's the temperate woodlands. And they are specifically semi-arid environments with a mix of shrubs and open forests filled with trees. Poppies are often scattered about over the woodlands, and they have hot and dry summers and cool, moist winters. There are varying levels of nutrients, although most are poor in this realm. The main human impact on this biome is hunting and poaching. If you kill too many of the animal in a biome, it'll just mess up the entire biome. Now, I couldn't really find a map or, a map outlining the locations. The ones that I got were either chaparral or temperate deciduous forest. So I'm not quite sure what a temperate woodlands is or where it would be. But we're going to go with it anyways. Just take it and run, even if you don't know. Now here we have a nice little food web of the temperate woodlands, even though I think this one would also work well for the temperate deciduous forest. You're going to see that the cougar and the bear are going to be at the top of their food chain, but the bear also serves as a primary consumer. The deer, it's in there, the rodents, the birds, the foxes, and the owls. All that's, pretty tangled in there. Now you're also going to see things such as coyotes, bald eagles, all sorts of different types of creatures. And it's really interesting because it seems like this biome is just a mix of the chaparral and the temperate deciduous forest. Once again, you have yourself a nice little energy pyramid here, and it's got really no numbers to it. But we're just gonna say at the bottom, the autotrophs have their 10K there. The herbivores are gonna get 1,000, and then that carnivore at the very top is only gonna get 100 of their kilocalories of energy. Coyote 2. Return of the Coyote. Yep, that's right. So here comes the coyote once more, and much like most other animals, human interactions help the coyote prosper. This is pretty much all just going to be a repeat. Only the difference between this one is it's going to harass the youth of badgers and sometimes adult pine marten. Um, you know, it's basically the same thing as you heard before, and I don't want to kill you with boredom. So that's pretty much it. That looks like one angry animal. So the badger here, which we can see, has sharp claws and a slender and sleek form to assist in the fighting off predators. They're highly protective of their young, and with their claws they will burrow into the ground, making homes for themselves and their families. Yeah, I can see why the coyote would rather harass the young, because that thing just looks fiercely vicious, and I would not be one to be fighting that. So here's the pine marten, and it's a member of the weasel family, meaning that it is a small, sleek individual that feeds mostly on smaller rodents and birds. One of the behavioral adaptations of the pine marten is that it will burrow inside the tangled roots of a tree. So, well, let's say that it's in the chaparral for whatever reason, and that will be completely out of its nature. It would find its home in that little gap that you saw in the olive tree. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much the pine marten, and yeah, I can see why the coyote would rather harass the adult pine marten than the badger. Once again, must I say. America 2. Return of the bald eagle. Yep, that's right. The bald eagle is back, and once again, like I said, it's the only eagle unique to North America, meaning it can only be found here in North America. It kills its prey with its talons. It's not uncommon in the taigas of Alaska, and yeah, it's basically the same thing as I said earlier. Once again, hate to kill you with boredom. The fallow deer. So this is your common deer that you will spot on the roadside. They have large, extensive antlers, which is a defensive adaptation that only males have. They will host rutting stands, as they're called, in which two deers will challenge one another for a pack of females. And that's majorly a social adaptation, as one might say. But yeah, it's going to lock horns with the other fallow deer and kind of wrestle it around until one of them's, well, not horns, but antlers, until one of them's antlers break. And then that deer's just defenseless and I ain't got no antlers. Yes, yes, yes. I know it's that time again, and it's horrible. I know, but this is the beech tree, and it can extend upwards into 40 meters. And this tree has a type of dome-shaped look to its brush. The tree has a lack for more clay-based soils and strays from harsh winters, and due to this, they have a lighter root system than most other trees. The beech tree, when located in a sunny environment, will adapt to be shorter and have a larger, wider crown, so it can actually absorb more sunlight. It's one of the, I guess, what you would say, circumstantial adaptations of the genus here, and it's just a really beautiful tree. All right, so here you can see the sycamore tree. Now, the sycamore tree generally grows quickly, and it can reach about 25 meters to 30 meters. The interesting thing about the sycamore is that it actually sheds its bark. No scientist is really 100% certain why, but it's been boiled down to three things: the floodplain environment that it's in, herbivory protection, or bark photosynthesis. Now, in my speculation, it's part of the growing cycle. The sycamore tree's bark would hardly be able to build up in comparison to its rate of growth. And that's just my 2 cents. So this hardwood is known as the oak. The oak tree can live up to 500 to 1,000 years. And when a fire burns down most trees, the trees end up dying, but not the mighty oak. The fire may burn the top of the tree, but the roots will still remain, and from these roots, oak saplings will sprout. And these little oak saplings will grow quickly to recover what was once lost, and the oak's roots will dig deep in search of water. Now, this is like that other oak that you heard of earlier. It's going to have some very expansive root systems, digging and just finding its way to water. It will pretty much do anything for water. Okay, so this is the elm tree. Now, this elm tree that you see here definitely isn't in the wild. It is definitely in a park. Now, the elm tree is a very quickly growing tree and can take over entire fields. Now, due to this, it's going to be very versatile. Now, let's say we have two elm trees right next to each other. One's, kind of in this desert-like environment. The other one's, in this really clayey environment that has a lot of moist water. Well, the one on the right, which is the one that's in that desert type of environment, is going to have some very expansive root systems, sending its roots over to where the water reserves are, and it's going to burrow down. Now, the one in the clay type environment is going to be like that beech tree we heard about earlier, with this shallow, light root system that's just going to, allow it to just kind of sit there. And, it's all about the tree's natural environment. It's all of it, abiotic factors. So, say hello to the birch tree. So, the birch tree specifically has an extremely durable bark. The bark contains a specific oil or oils that make it so resistant and so stubborn that protect their inner wood. The roots of the birch are shallow and wide, allowing it to reach out for water. So it's not a very big tree. I mean, like I could almost fit my hand around it. Now the reason for that is, it doesn't really need to be. It's got to have all that power in its roots to find water. Alright, so here we have the tropical seasonal forest. Now, generally this climate stays over 20 degrees Celsius, and its average rainfall is ranging anywhere from 50 centimeters to 200 centimeters a year. This biome is covered with trees and is tropical because it falls between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. It is seasonal because it fluctuates with the seasons of the year, unlike the taiga. Now, oftentimes this biome can be found inside of the savanna. The main human impact on this environment is poaching. Now, the white rhino's horn is extremely valuable to some collectors and art makers, and some other creatures are this way, such as the elephant, causing the overhunting of these creatures. Now, as you can see, this food web right here is just completely wrong, but this is what I found for the tropical seasonal forest. And those don't really have bears or well, I mean they might have cougars. It wouldn't be uncommon for them to have cougars. Yeah, it's this food web's just off, even though there's basically no other food web for tropical seasonal forest. But so you got yourself a nice healthy little wrong energy pyramid here. It's got the deer and the bear on there. I don't know why this would show up for tropical seasonal forest, but you don't really get anything much else that's too right. There's maybe a couple with python and one with jaguar, but I mean it just it ain't right. None of these is really right. They're all just kind of your basic food webs here. Well, look, there's one. It's still that one ain't quite right even. Um, it's just really hard to come by. So here's one random one for you. Just kind of imagine the animals that are coming up in these food webs and energy pyramids, because it just don't make a whole lot of sense, this whole Google thing here. So here you're going to see the scorpion. Now the scorpion is a moderately sized insect, meaning that it's pretty good sized. I mean it'll pack a punch. Now scorpions have a long tail and large claws. These are natural adaptations for defense and for hunting. Um, like the praying mantis, the scorpion will trap the prey with its claws and then kill it with its venomous tail. And let me tell you, you do not want to be on the other end of that tail. That thing's been known to kill insects, so I'm rather not going to be stung by it. I don't know about you, but yeah. And I heard their claws also pinch pretty tight too. Um, I'd have to assume it's something like being pinched by a clawfish or a crawdad. Just ain't a whole fun experience. So here we have the white rhino, and it's the largest rhino in the in the genus. The white rhinoceros depends predominantly on smell. Its olfactories, which I assume are its smelling sensors, are larger than the entire brain. So this rhinoceros has two horns, one major in the front and a small minor horn behind it, and this is defensive adaptation for jamming and ramming into predators. Um, and yeah, I mean, like, I can understand because you're going to have lions, you're going to have tigers, all sorts of things coming out there after you. So you got to have some kind of defensive mechanism. And, the horn is definitely an effective one. If you're charging at it and it's charging right back at you, that horn's going to pierce through it. So here we have the pseudo Myrmex ants, and they've got these little stingers on them, and I can only assume that it's kind of like a wasp, but it's got the worker ants and all that. So it's got mutualism with this plant, which you'll see later, called the Acacia, and you've heard about that one before, but that one was the umbrella thorn Acacia. Now, the Acacia will allow it to live in its hollow insides, and the special thing that allows these ants to defend the plant is those stingers. And, they're just really a lot like a wasp. And so here we have the state insect of Kentucky. Excuse me, that's right, it's the honeybee. So honeybees have several adaptations that help their colony survive in the wild. They, number one, have stingers, which release a venom into the attacker, and secondly, the honeybee will release a pheromone that calls other bees to come and attack. So, say you get stung by one honeybee, well, it's going to inject a little pheromone onto your skin there, and then a whole bunch of other honeybees are going to come up and sting you. And that's just what makes these bees so hazardous and such a reckoning force. Honeybees are outrageously they will swarm you. So don't mess with honeybees, but that's their adaptations. So for this one, we're going to be pretty general, and these are wasps. So there's, several types of wasps that live in tropical or seasonal forests, and they're classified as any apocrita that is not a bee or an ant. And they have developed a venomous sting, and they're often considered parasitic. They lay their eggs directly into the host creature. This is an adaptation for the defense and well-being of the wasp's young. So basically what will happen is the wasp will go up and it'll lay its eggs inside of the host. Well, in this example, we'll call them a caterpillar. So it's going to go up, it's going to lay its eggs in the caterpillar, and slowly over time, its eggs are going to grow and they're going to spurt and they're going to feed off this caterpillar. And slowly the caterpillar will die, and then, the little baby wasps are going to pop out of there. And it's just going to be a hog wild mess. And it's parasitic wasps. It's the darndest thing. So, yep, that's right. This is the reoccurrence of the Acacia. So the Acacia, also known as the thorn tree, has a couple of species, such as the umbrella thorn Acacia, which was mentioned before. Of the Acacia in the tropical seasonal forest, this one is special because it works with the ants. Its hollow insides allow home for pseudo-Miramax ants, which defends the plant. And this is just a behavioral adaptation for the survival of the Acacia. So here we have the columnar cacti. So these cacti are pretty much exactly as described. They're tall cacti with many needles as a defensive mechanism, and a two-step photosynthesis process which prevents the loss of all the water during the usually hot days. Yeah, it's columnar cacti. It's a big column. There's not much else to say about it. So here's the jumping chala. So this plant receives its name from its easily peeled off fruit and limbs, which gives the feeling as though it jumped. Even the slightest brush could set this plant off. It's a tree-like plant with one long trunk stemming down into the ground, but its leaves are actually spines, which serve as a defensive mechanism as well as giving the seeds or offspring a chance to find a new location by boarding another animal. Now, for golfers who go to tropical seasonal forests to golf, they're going to find themselves accidentally bumping into these and not even realizing it. And then later they're going to find out whenever they lean on something, all them little spines, all those little leaves are going to jump right into their skin, and they're not going to be a very happy camper after that. So here we have this lovely little barrel cactus. So this short little robust cactus has a yellow to orange flower on the top. Well, flowers on the top. But don't think that this makes it sweet, as its spines will still poke the living daylights out of you. On this plant, the spines, which serve as a defensive purpose, grow on ribs, which are very pronounced lines in the cacti. I mean, you can see it right there. You can see a distinction in between the lines and the green, and those lines are all tiny little spines that will poke the living daylights out of you. Like I said before, it's a painful experience. So here we have the ironwood tree, and it's a decent sized tree, but it's also kind of short in nature, so it extends outward in the fashion that shrubbery would. So really, I guess it's not so much short, but it's wide. It's a wide tree, and it'll oftentimes be found near the columnar cacti, or on the columnar cacti, and it provides a mini ecosystem for creatures living around it. It'll provide a home for small little rodents and insects. When it's over, so let's see. Alright, so now, finally, we got that temperate rainforest. So the average precipitation of the temperate rainforest is somewhere in between 200 centimeters and 350 centimeters. Meanwhile, its temperature stays above 0 degrees Celsius and below 20 degrees Celsius. Now, because of this, the rainforest can grow massive trees. So I think we all know what that means. Massive paydays for loggers. And yeah, that's the human impact. We come in there and we cut down the trees. Now I know of one specific company called Rygard that cuts down trees in the Pacific Northwest, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I'd look Rygard up. They're pretty interesting. They've got their own TV show on Axemen. Not trying to become an advertisement agency here, but you get the point. Yeah, the Pacific Northwest. It's a temperate rainforest. Alright, so we've got a nice little food chain here, and it's of the temperate rainforest biome. You've got the lynx, the wolf, the bear, and the cougar at the top, and your amphibians, your weasels, your raccoons, your birds at the secondary consumers. You've got primary consumers, such as small mammals, salmon, which is, of course, eaten by the wolf and the bear and the lynx and the cougar and all of them. And then you've got your elk and your deer and your birds. And you've got your primary producers, which is going to be your evergreens and your conifers. So, yep, that's a little rundown of our little food chain here, or food web. And here we've got our little energy pyramid. Essentially, it's the same thing as a fruit web, except, this one ain't got no number. Well, no, this one does have numbers. It's got the 90,000 at the bottom, 9,000 primary consumers, 90 secondary consumers, and then only 9 kilocalories of square meters per year. Well, yep, that's our little energy pyramid for our Pacific Northwest biome. And so here we have the black bear, which is a large hulking force of nature. It's black due to its environment, and unlike the brown bear, whom is meant to blend in with trees, the black bear is meant to blend in with the shade produced by the overbearing trees of the temperate rainforest. Most of their other body structures are very similar, if not the same, and yes, this does include the claws. So, them things that they used to catch fish with. And here we have the beautiful, oh so beautiful, timber wolf. So the timber wolf gets its name from its environment. It lives with the timber, and there's not much other to say than that. The timber wolf is in fact extremely territorial and aggressive, and unlike the coyote, however, it has a shorter snout, but it is broader and significantly larger. Like the golden jackal, the timber wolf mates for life, unless its partner dies. And interestingly enough, most wolves hunt in a similar fashion, stalking their prey and then rushing it as it turns to flee. However, if the animal doesn't flee, the wolves will try harder to force it to, or just ignore it. The interesting thing about the wolves are they prefer to attack their prey in the flank versus directly. So it's not uncommon for them to come from the side or from the behind, and on the elk, there's a very sensitive region where they commonly attack, and that'll cause the elk to bleed out very quickly. Excuse me. So that's pretty interesting. And so now here we have the shrew, which is kind of like a little mole-like mouse. It scurries around the rainforest floor with poor vision, but amazing hearing and smell. Before birth, the shrew loses its milk teeth, meaning that it only has one set of teeth its entire life. The shrew, oddly enough, is venomous, but unlike most venomous creatures, it injects its venom through grooves in its teeth versus fang-like teeth structures. So you know how pythons or snakes, king cobras, they'll lunge at you and they'll clamp on and inject it with their fangs. Well, the shrew, it latches on and it injects it through grooves. I assume that it's a little bit quicker. I wouldn't quite really know. And so here we can see this adorable, just so adorable little creature, and it's called a raccoon. And probably if not, it's the most versatile creature in North America. The raccoon can be found in any biome, anywhere. It will eat anything, and I'm certain on at least one occasion you found one eating your garbage. In the wilderness, however, they prey on mouse-like beings, for example the shrew. They have lightning-quick claws and long fingers to catch their prey, which is the primary adaptation of the raccoon. And provided that, we'll say this nice little temperate rainforest here is found near the ocean, or just any body of water, it will actually go out and fish. It will catch fish with its paws. I bet you weren't, I guarantee you weren't expecting to see this little creature again. But it's the pine marten. But this time in a rainforest. In the temperate rainforests of the Pacific Northwest, the pine marten can be found in the southeastern region, and it feeds on birds and shrews. It's a constant competition for food with other weasels, and will also compete with raccoons for homes, because both are tree-dwelling creatures. Yep, that's right. It's the Douglas fir Part 2. This tree is very thick, from 60 to 70 meters in height, and 1.5 to 2 meters around the base. At the top of the tree, a cylindrical tip can be found, and on the branches, needles stand out around it, versus hanging in a specific format. This tree is very dense and durable. That's pretty much about it. That's your nice little Douglas fir for you. And yep, that's your black spruce. It's pretty tall, growing upwards into 25 meters tall sometimes. And on four sides, the black spruce retains prickly spikes because of these needles. It's layering them. Yeah, you've all heard this before. And anywhere these trees can get massive amounts of water through the air, they can be found. So that includes the humid weather of the Pacific Northwest. And so here we see the western red cedar tree, and it's a massive evergreen growing upwards to 60 meters and around 3 to 4 meters in diameter. The western red cedar is located in the Pacific Northwest. It's actually very similar to the Douglas fir in the nature of its needles and hanging branch structures. This tree is riparian, meaning that it is custom for it to settle near streams and rivers. The reason this tree is so tall is to collect as much sunlight as possible because rainforests, even temperate, are densely compacted with other trees and plants. And so here we see poison oak. This is a member of the sumac family and is probably one of the things that you're allergic to. It has toxins in it that will cause itching and rash, and this is one of its adaptations for defense. If I were a herbivore, I'm not likely to eat something that causes itching and rash. It wouldn't be uncommon for this vine to grow anywhere from 5 to 4 meters in length. And last, but certainly not least, we can see the black oak. And the black oak grows to be around a max of 24.4 meters in height and around 1 meter in diameter, but usually it's pretty decently smaller. Like most trees of the temperate rainforest, it is deciduous, meaning that it loses its leaves with the changing of the seasons. Due to the bushy nature of this tree, the buds cluster at the tips of the branches to avoid dropping all its seeds directly under it. Alright, so now here we see the beautiful tropical rainforest, and these biomes exist in between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, and that's what makes it tropical. Now, these rainforests are home to a vast amount of wildlife. 1/4 of all medicines are derived from rainforest plants, and without the tropical rainforests, we may not have as many of the medicines that we have today. Now, there are over 1,400 potential cures for cancer located in these rainforests. But if this excessive logging, which is the main issue with these tropical rainforests, if it continues, a lot of these potential cures are just going to be wiped off the map. And so now here we see an Amazon rainforest food web. And, you've got the boa constrictor and the golden lion tamaranian. They're kind of up there. They're near the top. Not to mention the sloth. And, the sloth and the toucan, they're scavengers, so they'll pretty much eat anything. And there's your nice little healthy food web of the Amazon. And now here we see the actual little diagram here, the energy pyramid. So now you're going to look at this, and there's actually something wrong here. Under the banana plant, there should be 100%, and that should be sunlight. The banana plant should actually be 10%. The golden lion tamaranian should be 1, and then the harpy eagle's going to be 0.1%, because you've got to calculate in the sunlight there. The sunlight is still a factor, even though it's abiotic. We can't forget that. Wow. Now, what on earth is that? That is a bird of paradise. And there's more than 3 dozen species in the birds of paradise family, and they're considered the divas of the avian world. These vibrantly colored birds reside in New Guinea and its surrounding islands. So the bird of paradise love to eat insects, but will also eat fruit and nuts if they are available. Now, the male bird of paradise uses its brightly colored feathers to attract a mate, and the mating ritual usually contains some kind of dance or show that the male does for the female. Wow, that is one angry cat. You're right, that's a jaguar. So today these large felines are found only in the regions of South and Central America, particularly in the Amazon basin. Now, these cats can have entire territories spanning several square miles, and they mark their territories by clawing trees or with their fecal matter. Now, most people mistake this animal for a leopard, which has similar spots, but the jaguar's coloring helps it blend into the dappled sunlight of the rainforest. So you know how you got all these really tall trees here and they're kind of blocking out most of the sunlight? Well, the jaguar here kind of blends in with the shadows. Now, it is known as a keystone species, playing an important role in stabilizing ecosystems and regulating populations of the animals it hunts. Well, now, isn't that adorable? Let's see, how many is that? That's six. Six monkeys up on one line howling. Wow, amazing. Well, that's right. It's a howler monkey. So these noisy monkeys are native to South and Central American rainforests and have a hyoid bone, which allows them to howl as loudly as they do. Only male howler monkeys howl, and they do this to let other monkeys know where they are. These monkeys feast upon fruit and nuts, which they can smell from up to 2 kilometers away, and they prefer to stay aloft, munching on the trees that make up most of their diet. Now, howler monkeys have beards and long hair that can be black, brown, or red, and the red howler monkey species is common, but is often targeted by hunters for bushmeat. Other species of howler monkeys may be critically endangered, so, it's all just a matter of what you like. Does this bird look familiar? It should. It's a toucan, and you've probably seen one before at the Louisville Zoo. So toucans can be found in southern Mexico, Central America, and some of the north parts of South America and the Caribbean region. Toucans are mainly fruit eaters, but will eat insects and lizards. They also invade nests of smaller birds, taking eggs and nestings. Toucans are dominant frutivores and play an extremely important role as seed dispersers for fruiting trees. So the toucan's bill is useful as a feeding tool. The bird uses it to reach for fruit on branches that are too small to support their weight and to skin its fruit. That's a big old beak, though. So now we have the hyacinth macaw, and it's the largest species of macaw with a wingspan of 4 feet. Wow! So this colorful bird is easily able to glide through the rainforest. Now, macaws usually live in flocks of about 10 to 30 birds, and these birds are very social and are constantly squawking and calling to one another. The birds sleep in trees at night and fly in a group to find food and water. Now, macaws eat some foods that contain toxins, so they've adapted to this by consuming clay, which neutralizes the effect of toxins. And that's a really interesting adaptation. I believe that's behavioral. And now here we have the mangrove tree. So mangroves are a type of tree that grow in coastal sediment in the tropics and subtropics. The mangrove species prefer saline conditions, such as brackish water and pure seawater. The trees have roots that can grow above ground and help prevent erosion in the areas they inhabit. There are extensive mangrove forests along the coastlines of the tropics and subtropics between latitudes of 25 north and 25 south. And so here we see the majestic strangler fig. So strangler figs are large trees that are part of the rainforest canopy. Since there is so much competition for nutrients and sunlight between all of the rainforest trees, the fig tree has made an adaptation. So the seedlings of the tree grow in the crook of another tree or on its branches. Once the seedlings take root, the roots wrap around the host tree down its trunk and branches. Eventually, the tree cuts off the host tree's nutrients completely and takes the other tree's spot, so to say. So essentially what this tree does is it hostilely invades another tree. That's one pretty aggressive tree. Now, would it be tropical if we left out the coconut tree? So the coconut palm trees grow in hot areas, and they like areas free of frost. So they grow in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Pacific region. So the tree usually takes root close to the coast to have easy access to moisture. Now, coconuts can provide shelter, food, drink, and many other things. Coconut milk and coconut water are very popular beverages that come from the coconut palm, and coconut oil is often used as moisturizer. So these trees are often grown in areas like Southern California and have become part of the popular culture what, er, in Southern California. So the trees often shed palm fronds, so regular maintenance is needed to keep them looking upkept. So you don't want your coconut palm to look all trashy. Wow, that's certainly one tall tree right there. So this is called the tulalang. So the tulalang grows in Southeast Asia and are well known for its disc-shaped honeycombs that hang from its branches. The tulalang can reach 250 feet, or about the equivalent of a 30-story building. They prefer damp areas near rivers, valleys, and low slopes of hills. So the tree is not common and cannot be used for lumber because the wood is hard to cut and it just splinters really easily. So right here you're going to see one of the more exotic fruits, and it's the jambu. So the jambus grow from southern India into eastern Malaysia. Jambu is a small tree or large shrub that grows on the average of 10 to 20 feet in height. Branches grow close to the ground, and the crown is open, and it lacks plenty of rain and evenly spaced throughout the year. So, I mean, it doesn't want its rain all at once. It's not like some of them trees in Africa that can store 40 people inside its trunk and, still have all that water. But it likes it really evenly spaced out. So the yellow, pink, or white flowers have a faint fragrance and grow in loose clusters of 3 to 7 at the end of the branches. In Indonesia, the tree blooms twice a year. The fruits become ripe in August and November, which is, kind of really late. November. That's getting close to December right there. Alright, so this is the coral reef, and in this example we have the Great Barrier Reef. So these biomes can be found in shallow, clear water in the ocean, and the temp is usually from 70 degrees to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. And this biome is very common. They're usually located in tropical areas such as Hawaii or the coasts of Africa. And the largest coral reef biome is the Great Barrier Reef, located in at the northern part of Queensland, Australia. So as for appearances, Finding Nemo, I'm sure all of you've seen that. And now here we have ourselves a nice little food web. It's got the krill and the algae and the barnacles and all that stuff on there. That's a really nice little infographic. So just take a couple seconds, look that over. And so now here we have an energy pyramid. So this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right, 5-level pyramid. So now let's say we started at the bottom with 1,000. Well, we're going to take that back a few number spaces. So the top's going to get, let's say it go from 1,000, 100, 10, 1, 0.1. Apex predators only receive 0.1% of the total kilograms, produced by the producers down there at the bottom. Now here we have the red sea urchin, and it's a spiny invertebrate that roams the sea floor looking for algae and other plant and animal matter to eat. The red sea urchin's body is covered with long movable spikes that are used primarily for trapping food. In between the spines, the sea urchin also has a tiny tube feet, which are used for eating and moving around the floor. The tube feet can also sting and partially immobilize prey. So the red sea urchin is one of 700 different species of sea urchin. Yeah, I would not want to be caught dead with those spines in me. That seems pretty painful. Now here we have the sea anemone, and these creatures are relatives of coral and jellyfish. They can vary in size, shape, and color. Sea anemones have a large foot on the bottom of their body, which they use to move. Anemones use this foot to latch onto rocks so they can sit on a rock and feed without having to move. This adaptation is also helpful when the tides come in and go out. The anemone can stay attached to the rock while the tides change, and the anemone can also close its tentacles to preserve water, much like a cactus or succulent. Now, the anemone feeds by attracting prey with its bright tentacles, injecting it with poison, and then pulling the prey into its mouth. So here we have the clown anemone fish, and these are bright orange with 3 white stripes. Clownfish are one of the most recognizable fish, probably because of the movie Finding Nemo, whose main characters are 2 clownfish. They're named for the sea anemone in which they make their homes. Clownfish have to acclimate themselves to the anemone's sting before taking up residence. The clownfish will brush up against the anemone with its body to get used to the sting of the anemone. Clownfish have a special layer of mucus that make the fish immune to the anemone's sting. Well, that's pretty interesting. They can use mucus. Yep, mucus. To ignore and become immune to that sting. So in the author's perspective, these are like the coolest fish, but I'm going to say these things haunt my nightmares. They can vary in size, but most of them are about 3 feet long. The parrotfish get their name from the beak-like mouth which they used for eating algae taken from chunks of coral. Now, the fish uses its throat teeth, mind you. Let me say that again, throat teeth, to grind up the coral to get to the algae. So parrotfish have the ability to change their gender, shape, color, and all that kind of stuff at will. Most fish do this a few times during their lifespan, which can last up to 7 years. The ability to change its gender lets the fish adapt to the lack of males and females, which can be caused by overfishing. Once again, may I say, this thing haunts my nightmares. So here we have gooseneck barnacles. Gooseneck barnacles filter feed crustaceans that attach to hard surfaces of rocks and floating objects in the ocean. Intertidal zone. So some species of gooseneck barnacles are most frequently found on the tide rack on oceanic coasts. Unlike most other types of barnacles, intertidal goose barnacles depend on water motion rather than the movement of their curry for feeding. So now here we see the brain coral. This type of coral looks just like it sounds. The coral has extensive grooves that run all along its length. The coral maintains a symbiotic relationship with the algae that grows in these grooves and give the coral its color. The coral also gets nutrients from the algae. The coral feeds by extending its tentacles at night to feed on small drifting organisms. Some types of brain coral tend to be aggressive and are known to reach out with its tentacles and sting other coral. So here we can see the stackhouse seaweed. It's a species of red algae which grows along the rocky parts of the coasts of Europe and North America, varying in color from greenish yellow through red to a dark purple or purplish brown. The algae is rich in iodine and sulfur. When softened in water, it has a sea-like odor, and because of its abundant cell wall polysaccharides, it will form a jelly when boiled, containing up to 20 or 100 times its weight of water. Actually, I do believe that means weight in water. That's my bad. So, bull kelp. Bull kelp grows in rough coastal waters. Its root-like holdfast has many finger-like projections that hold the plant to rocks. A flexible stem extends 30 to 60 feet, 10 to 20 meters, enlarging to form a round float. Bull kelp is an annual seaweed. It grows quickly, sometimes 10 inches in one day. Bull kelp reproduces by spores that settle close to parent plants. Winter storms wash spent bull kelp onto the beaches, where the plants dry and turn brown. They have the appearance of bullwhips, giving this kelp its name. And now here we can see the Symbiotium algae. These protists live in corals, sea anemones, and jellyfish, where the products of their photosynthesis are exchanged for inorganic molecules. They also participate in symbiosis with a species of sponge, flatworms, and mollusks. This algae is among the most abundant microbes found in the coral reef. Now, this is actually right here, algae from the sea. There's plenty of algae other places. I don't know if you know about lake algae and all that kind of stuff. But that's always pretty interesting to find like a very just versatile genus of, I guess you'd call it sometimes plant, even though there's a chemosynthetic plankton and all that. I'm not sure if they're part of the algae family, but it's just such a versatile little being there, and it does its job quite well. Alright, so now we're going to take a nice little look at the temperate deciduous forests. Now, deciduous forests can be found in the eastern half of North America and the middle of Europe. The average annual temperature in a deciduous forest is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and the average rainfall is 30 to 60 inches a year. So this biome has 4 different seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. During fall, the deciduous trees change color and lose their leaves. One way the animals in this biome adapt to the weather is by hibernating in the winter. Animals use the trees for food and water sources, and most of the animals are camouflaged to look like the ground. Now, one big human impact here, well, actually two, is both logging and hunting, because this takes up a lot of the logging and hunting regions of both U.S. and Europe. Now you'll see over there in China and in Asia a little bit that there's going to be some realms there of the temperate deciduous forests, but these are usually found in America and Europe. Actually, if you took a look at your back door right about now, you'd see it. Well, you wouldn't see the forest, but you'd see the biome at least. What makes it up. So now you have yourself a nice little temperate deciduous forest biome food web, and you're going to see that the cougar and the bear are at the top here, and they're going to be followed by stuff like the fox and the owl, and birds of prey, that kind of stuff. And below them, there's going to be the deer, the insects, the lesser birds that are herbivores, and butterflies and stuff like that. And now here we have ourselves a nice little healthy energy pyramid. At the bottom you're going to see that says 6,000 kilocalories per square meter per year, and the deer and that kind of stuff, the primary consumers, which are going to be your herbivores, are going to get only about 600 kilocalories. And then you're going to get your birds of prey and your foxes and all that kind of stuff, and they're going to be your secondary consumers, your predators, and they're only going to get what would that be, 60? And then you got at the top of their food chain there the bear in this one, but it could also be the cougar. Let's not forget it. And that's going to get about 6 kilocalories per year. So this tertiary consumers here, they're going to be your apex predators of your environment. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at a white oak. So the white oak can grow from 80 to 100 feet tall and can have a lifespan of up to 600 years. So the oak tree grows upright, and its bark is a whitish gray. The oak tree produces acorns, which are eaten by squirrels, chipmunks, and deer. Now mind you, don't eat these acorns, they will tear up your insides. So the white oak tree is valued for its timber products, such as furniture, flooring for interior finishes, and for construction. The oak tree also produces acorns, which are a food source for wildlife. So the lady fern is a deciduous perennial fern about 24 to 36 inches tall. This fern can be found growing in meadows, open thickets, moist woods, and along stream beds. They also grow in the cracks of rocks. Lady ferns reproduce by thick, scaly rhizomes and spores. They grow in most semi-shaded areas. Native Americans also had several uses for these ferns, and tea could be brewed from their leaves that is said to reduce labor pains. Wow, that kind of looks like a carpet. Well, I'll be darned if it isn't called carpet moss. Well, mosses are pretty simple, rootless, evergreen plants. They can live in a lot of habitats, but are most often found covering the ground, growing on stream beds, and at the base of trees. Carpet moss grows in eastern North America and Europe. So, carpet moss, like its name suggests, it carpets the ground. When conditions are dry, capsules open and release spores. These spores grow into leafy male and or female mosses. Many people use carpet moss as a ground cover for gardening, and years ago people used to stuff their beds with carpet moss because they thought that it made them sleep better. I suppose it's always more comfortable than having some goose feathers prick you. And now, so here we see the white birch. The white birch is a deciduous tree that can be 70 or 80 feet in height. As far as the trees go, it doesn't live very long, only about 140 years. The paper birch has both male and female catkins. These turn into winged nuts that become ripe in early August and into mid-September. These wings help the seeds fly away from the parent tree so there won't be competition for food and water. So the paper birch is the first tree to grow back in places that have had fire or where trees have been cut. Uh, Moose and white-tailed deer will eat the leaves and tender shoots of the paper birch, and porcupines will eat the bark. So Native Americans also used the bark to cover their canoes. They also used it to make baskets, mats, torches, and moose calls. The wood is used for building lumber. Syrup, wine, beer, and medicinal tonics are made from the sap. The white birch is found from New England to North Carolina in the U.S. It prefers colder climates. Wow, that's a big tree. So this is the American beech, and it's a tree that grows in southern and eastern parts of the U.S. It grows in deciduous forests. The American beech is a tall and wide tree. Uh, the American beech tree does not like city living, probably because of the carbon monoxide. The American beech tree has a shallow root system and likes bottomland and upland soil. There are two reasons why it is hard to grow anything beneath the tree. The first is because the leaves that grow on the tree block the sunlight and keep the ground constantly in shade. The second reason is because most of the root system grows all over the ground surface and uses any moisture that may reach the ground. There are many different uses for the American beech tree. Furniture. The beech tree also produces a lot of paper. Many animals in the deciduous forest feed on the seeds of the beech. The American beech tree is also beneficial for humans because the nuts that fall off on the tree can be harvested for food. So here we can see the duck-bill platypus. The duck-bill platypus lives in the forests of Australia. It is about the size of a house cat. It has short legs and webbed front feet. The back feet are partially webbed. Male platypus has hollow spurs on their ankles which carry venom. They use this venom as protection, and it is a bill shaped like a duck's bill, and that's kind of where it gets the name. So the bill has nostrils for breathing that can be closed when they go into water. The platypus does not have teeth, so it grinds its food with the grinding pad in its mouth. And so here we see this cute little bird called the chickadee. So the chickadee found in North America are referred to as, well, what other than chickadees. They are small-sized birds overall, usually having the crown of the head, which is darker than the body. The black-capped chickadee is found from the coast to coast and from the northern half of the U.S. to the south, and the southern edge of the northwest and the southern half of Alaska in the north. In winter, it may wander outside its range, and both to the north and to the south. Its preferred habitat is deciduous woods. The bird may make short flights to catch insects in the air. Seeds and berries come more important in winter, though insects remain an important part of their diet. So it eats a healthy, balanced breakfast of insects. So right here we're going to see the eastern chipmunk, and the eastern chipmunk is a ground-dwelling squirrel with a brownish-red color. Its head has two white stripes above and below the eye, and when it runs it sticks its tail straight up. It makes a sharp chattering or chucking noise when upset. Chipmunks live in forests and edges of forests, and are also found around suburban and rural areas. Chipmunks eat mostly what you would think a squirrel would eat: grains, nuts, berries, seeds, and they also eat bugs and salamanders. They will raid bird nests and eat the eggs and baby birds if they are small enough. They have a special cheek pouch in which they carry their food. Chipmunks are valuable forest creatures because they move seeds around and store them underground. Some of these seeds sprout and become new trees. They are also important as a food source for other animals like foxes, coyotes, birds of prey, and that kind of stuff. The eastern chipmunks are native to North America and can be found in the deciduous forest of the southeastern Canada and the eastern U.S. So right here we're going to see the white-tailed deer. Wow, wouldn't I just love to hunt one of those right now? Okay, so the fur of the deer is a grayish color in the winter and then more red in the summer. Only the males or bucks have antlers, which they shed in January to March and grow out again in April and May. Males can weigh up to 400 pounds and females weigh anywhere from 70 to 200. They graze on green plants in the summer and nuts and acorns during the winter. They will also eat twigs and buds of birch, maple, and conifer trees in the winter. White-tailed deer have a grayish-brown color, which makes them easy for camouflaging themselves in the underbrush. So you're going to notice that they're called white-tail because if you look under that brown patch that's their tail right there, that's kind of got a little white outlining to it, and that's where they get their name. Wow, is that squirrel Irish? Because it's got a lot of red fur. So the red squirrel gets its name from its cinnamon-colored fur that covers its entire body. They have strong teeth made for eating pine cones and seeds. The red squirrel has a long bushy tail used to balance its weight while climbing a tree. The squirrel is about 36.5 centimeters long, along head to tail. The red squirrel has a lifespan of about 4 to 6 years. They don't hibernate, but they will stay in their nests when it gets cool. The red squirrel mostly feeds on seeds. It is important to this biome because it disperses seeds. The gray squirrel is being overtaken by the larger gray squirrel, and that was brought over from North America. So the European red squirrel has become extinct throughout most of England and Wales, and it is protected by laws there. The only way to raise red squirrel population is to lower the gray squirrel's population. So yeah, pretty much in England and Ireland and all that, the red squirrel's getting outduked by the gray squirrel, the American squirrel. Alright, so I'm not 100% certain that this map has to be here, but it's here. So this is the ocean. It is the largest of Earth's biomes. The smallest creature in the ocean are microorganisms, and the largest creatures are blue whales. The ocean is not the same everywhere. There are many different ecosystems within the ocean depending upon environmental conditions such as water temperature, amount of sunlight through water, and the amount of nutrients. Light can make its way deep as, 656 feet. Almost all marine life, about 90%, lives within the top sunlit layer, and we're going to go over some of the animals and plants here. So just take a quick look at this marine food web straight out of the ocean. I think this is going more towards the Arctic. But you're going to see that the killer whale is the apex predator up here, and the elephant seal is going to come slightly below that along with the penguin and the leopard seal. The squid's going to go up there. And the killer whale just kind of dominates this food web. So you're going to see right here a nice generalized energy pyramid of the ocean with very at the bottom there the phytoplankton and the algae, which are the primary producers. You're going to go up another layer and you're going to see the primary consumers, which are going to be your herbivores, and that's going to be stuff like your grazers, that kind of stuff, and they're only going to get 100 units of the 1,000 units that this algae and phytoplankton make. Now, mind you, these are calculated in kilocalories. So you're going to go up to first order carnivores, as they're called in this diagram, and that's going to be stuff that eats the grazers and the deposit feeders. And then lastly, you're going to get your tertiary consumers, or your second order carnivores, and they're only going to get the 1 unit that's left at the end of the day. They're 1 kilocalorie. And it's I guess a lonely life at the top because you don't get a whole lot of energy. So here we can see the moon jellyfish. The jellyfish is translucent, usually about 10 to 16 inches in diameter, and is recognized by its 4 horseshoe-shaped circles, easily seen through the top of the jellyfish. It feeds by collecting plankton and mollusks with its tentacles and bringing them into its body for digestion. It is only capable of limited motion and drifts with the currents, even when swimming. Because of this, the jellyfish prefers seas with constant currents. The species is found along the eastern Atlantic coast of northern Europe, Atlantic coast of North America, in New England and eastern Canada. In general, the jellyfish is found in estuaries and harbors. Whew, this one's going to be a mouthful, folks, but we can make it through this. Trust me. Together, we can do this. So this one's the blue whale. The blue whale is a marine mammal that belongs to the group of whales with baleen teeth. It is 30 meters in length and 190 tons in weight. It is the largest existing animal and the heaviest that ever existed. Long and slender, the blue whale's body can be various shades of bluish-gray dorsally and somewhat lighter underneath. As with other baleen whales, its diet consists almost exclusively of small crustaceans known as krill. Blue whales were abundant in nearly all the oceans on Earth until the beginning of the 20th century. They were hunted almost to extinction by whalers until they were protected by the international community in 1966. Before whaling, the largest population was in the Antarctic, approximately 239,000, range of 202,000 to 311,000. So that's like your little average there. There remain around 2,000 in each of the eastern North Pacific, Antarctic, and Indian Ocean groups. There are two more groups in the North Atlantic and at least two in the Southern Hemisphere. As of 2014, the California blue whale has rebounded to nearly its pre-hunting population. So that's just great. They're really being fertile, they're being productive, and they're getting back up there. Now, mind you, whaling is still a large problem, and this is one of the human impacts on this biome. Whaling still goes on in the Swedish and Japanese community, and at this point, it's not really for the food. It's just part of their ceremony and part of their culture. That's a pretty fish right there. That's called the sockeye salmon. So the sockeye salmon is an attempt to translate the words sukig from the Salish language. Sukig means red fish. So the sockeye is among the smaller of the Pacific salmon, but their meat is prized above all others. They range from 24 to 33 inches in length and weigh between 5 and 15 pounds. Like other Pacific salmon, they are born in fresh water. Once hatched, juvenile sockeyes will grow until their habitat for up to 3 years. Then they journey out to sea where they grow, feeding upon mainly zooplankton. They can stay in the ocean for 1 to 4 years. Seagoing salmon have silver flanks with black speckles and bluish top. However, as they return upriver to their spawning grounds, their bodies turn bright red and their heads take on a green color. My bad for all the mistakes there. Got a little bit of cottonmouth, I reckon. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting fish. I assume that it takes a switch in the type of fresh to salt water there as it goes back upstream and out into the ocean to eat zooplankton. So here we're going to see the sea turtles. There are 7 species of sea turtles, and they are the leatherback sea turtle, green sea turtle, logger sea turtle, loggerhead sea turtle, my bad, Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, and hawksbill sea turtle. Flatback sea turtle, yeah, that's a whole lot of sea turtles, and olive ridley sea turtle. 4 of the species have been identified as endangered or critically endangered, with another 2 being classified as vulnerable. So sea turtles are generally found in the waters over continental shelves. After taking to the water for the first time, males will not return to the shore again. During the first 3 to 5 years of life, sea turtles spend most of their time in the pelagic zone, floating in seaweed beds. Green sea turtles, in particular, are often found in sargassum beds, a brown seaweed in green. It's a brown seaweed in which they find their shelter and food. Once they reach adulthood, females come ashore to lay their eggs on sandy beaches during the nesting season. So the habitat of the sea turtle is a significant influence on its morphology. Sea turtles are able to grow so large because of their immense size of their habitat in the ocean. It's the ocean. It's massive. They can grow to their massive size. The reason that sea turtles are much bigger than land tortoises, and freshwater turtles is directly correlated with the vastness of the ocean and the fact that they travel such far distances. Having more room to live enables more room for growth. Now, the interesting thing is, I don't know how many of you remember Finding Nemo, but the sea turtle, he always seemed like he was kind of high or kind of on some type of drug. Well, whenever a sea turtle gets stung, the agent that would usually paralyze most things, or shock it, like it does for humans, it causes a similar reaction to TCL in the human body. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Oh, barracuda! So the barracuda is known for its large size and fearsome appearance. Uh, its body is long, fairly compressed, and covered with small, smooth scales. Some species can reach up to 2.1 meters, 6.9 feet for those of you who prefer the imperialistic system like myself, and 30 centimeters in width, and that's 12 inches. Um, the barracuda is a saltwater fish, and it is found in the tropical and subtropical oceans worldwide, ranging from the Atlantic Ocean to the Red Sea. They are found near the top of the water and near coral reefs and seagrasses. Barracudas are popular both as food and game fish, and they are most often eaten as fillets or steaks. West Africans smoke them and use them in soups and salsas. Yep, that's right. That's right. It's plant time again. So this is the red algae, and they're characterized by having eukaryotic cells without flagella and centrioles, using Floridian polysaccharides as food reserves with accessory pigments. That's how they get their red color. Many of the algae secrete calcium and play a major role in building coral reefs. Red algae are a traditional part of the European and Asian cultures and are used to make other products such as food additives. Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting that red algae is a eukaryotic cell without flagella or centrioles. That's just really uncommon. So, what on earth are you looking at? Green circles. What is this, Austin? What are you showing me? Well, this is the chlorella. It's a type of green algae that's about 2 to 10 centimeters in diameter, and chlorella contains the green pigments chlorophyll A and B in its chloroplast. Through photosynthesis, it multiplies rapidly. Multiplies rapidly using only carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, and small amount of minerals to reproduce. People believe chlorella could serve as a potential source of food and energy because of its photosynthetic efficiency, and it can reach high levels like other efficient crops such as sugarcane. This is the charophyta. It's a type of green algae that lives throughout the world, from the tropics to cold temperate zones. This algae is frequently found in hard water with dissolved calcium carbonates. They tolerate low concentrations of salt and are found in the inner regions of the Baltic Sea. So right here, this massive being is called the giant kelp. It's common along the coast of the eastern Pacific Ocean from Baja California to southeast Alaska, and is also found in the oceans near South America, South Africa, and Australia. Individual algae can grow up to 148 feet long at a rate of as much as 2 feet per day, so that's a pretty visible distinction there. Giant kelp grows in kelp forests, which are home to many marine animals that depend on algae for food or shelter. Humans harvest kelp for its rich iodine and other minerals. So here we're going to see the Ophyra. This is a cold water seaweed that grows in cold, shallow seawater. It grows in the intertidal zone between the upper intertidal zone and the splash zone, in cold waters of temperate oceans. In East Asia, it is used to produce the sea vegetable products nori in Japan and gim in Korea. In many Asian countries, it's used as an edible seaweed used to wrap the rice and fish that compose of Japanese food sushi, and the Korean food gimbap. In Japan, the annual production of Papaphora spp is valued at 100 billion yen a year, and for the U.S. that's $1 billion. That's 1 billion USD. All right, so let's party because this is our last biome. This is Antarctica. It's the coldest, windiest, and driest biome out of all the biomes. There isn't a lot of life in the Antarctic land, but all of the animals that do live there have adapted to the cold conditions. There's no precipitation in Antarctica, and it's just very cold. It has a high altitude temperatures like an ice biome, but it's still colder than any other biome. There are also a time when there's no sunrise or sunset, so it's kind of like Alaska. You know how they get 6 months of darkness and 6 months of light. It's just not a very fun experience. So here you have a nice little food web. It's similar to the one for the ocean, but this one's for Antarctica. It's going to show the orca whale and the serpent seal and all that. So that's always a very lovely thing to look at. Take a few seconds to observe. So now we're going to look at a Antarctic energy pyramid. Thank God this is the last one that we have to go through. Okay, so look here. This at the very top, he's going to get the least. Middle, they're going to get the second least. The primary consumers, which are going to be the second step up there, they're going to get the second most, and then the primary producers are going to get the most. That's the way the cookie crumbles, and that's the way it always has been. That's the way it's been for every single energy pyramid in this entire thing. So there you go. So right here you're going to see a Gentoo penguin. The Gentoo penguins have red-orange beaks, white feather caps, and peach-colored feet. Weighing around 12 pounds, they're among the largest penguins. These penguins populate the Antarctic and islands surrounding the frozen continent. So Gentoos like ice-free areas, and they hang out in colonies of breeding pairs from a few dozen to many thousands. Like many penguins, Gentoos are awkward on land, but they're very graceful underwater. They have strong flippers that can help them gain bursts up to 22 miles an hour, and that's pretty quick. Isn't that just a beautiful, majestic killing machine? Like honestly, because it's called the orca or the killer whale. They're found in all oceans, from the frigid Arctic to Antarctic areas to tropical seas. Killer whales have a very diverse diet, although individual populations often specialize in particular types of prey. Some feed on only fish, while others hunt marine mammals. Killer whales are regarded as apex predators. Killer whales are found in all oceans and most seas, but they prefer higher latitudes and coastal areas over other environments. I would assume that's because a lot of them like to hunt the marine mammals, and they're going to need air, so that's why they're hunting around coastal regions, so they can get those mammals. That's a behavioral adaptation. They have recognized that those mammals need air and that they need to get the land every once in a while, so that's where they go. Wow, isn't that just the cutest little thing you ever seen? Well, the cuttlefish are marine animals that belong to the class cephalopod, which also includes squid and octopi. Cuttlefish have an internal shell, the cuttlebone. Despite their name, cuttlefish are not fish. Cuttlefish have two tentacles with suckers, which they secure their prey with. The cuttlefish can also release a brownish-colored pigment when alarmed, so it's kind of like whenever a squid inks. Cuttlefish eat small mollusks, crabs, shrimp, fish, octopi, worms, and other cuttlefish. Their predators include dolphins, sharks, fish, seals, and seabirds. They live about 1 to 2 years. Studies indicate cuttlefish are among the most intelligent invertebrates. Wow, most intelligent. So moving right along, we're going to roll it and rock it on over to the Arctic fox, which is also known as the white fox, polar fox, or snow fox. The fox is well adapted to living in cold environments and has a very thick undercoat. This undercoat, it uses it to keep warm in temperatures as low as negative 50 degrees Celsius. The fox lives in burrows, which it surrounds with snow to protect its home from the harsh winds. When the seasons change, the fox's coat turns as well, adopting a brown or gray appearance that provides cover among the tundra's rocks and plants. These colorings help foxes to effectively hunt rodents, birds, and even fish, but in winter prey can be scarce on the ground. At such times, Arctic foxes will follow the region's premier predator to scavenge the leftover scraps from its kills. So it's kind of like the hyena and lion situation there. While they aren't exactly friends, the lion's going to help the hyena out every once in a while by letting it eat its scraps. Alright, so right here we have the chin-strap penguin. So they're medium-sized penguins, easily recognized by their white face and fine black line across the cheeks. Chinstrap penguins leave their breeding colonies during the winter, migrating north of the ice and stay at sea until next spring. Chinstrap penguins feed on almost exclusively krill or other crustaceans, and fish, play a role also. Wow, is that grass growing on rocks? That almost looks like something you'd see in Kentucky, but it's not. Arctic Antarctic hairgrass is 3 to 5 centimeters in length and is one of the only two flowering plants located below the latitudes of 60 degrees. It is usually found growing in soil fields, cracked in between bedrock, growing in medium-sized clumps. The recent warming trend has increased the rate of germination, and the plant has extended its growing range and has begun to encroach on other territories. So that's pretty interesting. It's getting pretty invasive in its own environment. Wow, that just looks like a whole bunch of moss. Once again, looks like something that you'd see in Kentucky. Well, it's Antarctic moss. It usually grows on rocks, and eventually it grows completely, to cover the entire rock on which it's growing. Some moss has been discovered frozen beneath over 6 feet of ice, and is known that this moss was in existence 5,000 years ago. Most plants in this biome grow between rock crevices or underneath trees where dirt is exposed. So you see that little king penguin right there? That's us. That's us. We're looking at this tussock grass. So this tussock grass grows usually in single plants in clumps, bunches, rather than forming a prairie. They are perennial plants and live more than one season. Tussock grasses have long roots which can aid slope stabilization and erosion control. Their roots can also reach moisture more deeply than other grasses and annual plants during seasonal or climatic droughts. The plants provide a habitat and food for insects, birds, small animals, all that kind of stuff. So the leaves supply materials such as for basket weaving and for indigenous people. Now, mind you, the tussock grass is found in more places than just the Antarctic. So it's going to be found in places like Australia, Africa. It's going to be kind of found all over the world. And so right here we have the snow algae. So snow algae grows in semi-permanent to permanent snow, which is snow that rarely melts, or ice in the polar regions of the world. The optimum growth temperatures are generally below 10 degrees Celsius. These algae have adapted to their harsh environment through the development of a number of features, which include pigments, sugars, and spore formation. So right here you're going to see the Antarctic pearlwort, and it's one of the two flowering plants in this region. It's found from Mexico until the northern continental edge of Antarctica, the Antarctic Peninsula specifically. It has white flowers and grows about 5 centimeters, or 2 inches for you Americans. It grows that tall, with a cushion-like growth habit that gives it a mossy appearance. Like the Antarctic hairgrass, it is experiencing changes due to the recent warming trend and is increasing its number of seeds and plants, and it has begun to extend south of 68 degrees southern latitude.
Hello, you people from Oz. I am going to be showing you the desert biome today. If you look on the map, you can notice that the yellow represents the deserts of this beautiful world that I wish you would save. Anyhow, as you can see, we have three main deserts. We have the southern Nevada of the United States, the northern Sahara Desert, and the outback of Australia. Now, if we can look, we will see the desert animals that we are going to be viewing. Starting with the mountain lion. The mountain lion has developed a predatory instinct to hunt down its prey. Moving on, we have the kit fox. This type of fox, it burrows and has camouflage to protect itself and sneak up on its prey, so that way it does not get eaten and it can eat. It will build burrows. Moving on, we have the California ground squirrel. Once again, it has a similar technique. It has camouflage, and it will burrow to hide from its predators, such as hawks and the kit fox. Moving on down to the kingfisher. This bird has developed a special beak specifically for catching small insects and fish in the water. This is a great instinct, but not really for desert. Moving on, we have the Mojave rattlesnake. This rattlesnake has developed venom to hunt down its prey and also to ward off enemies. It has a rattle that it shakes when a enemy is nearby. Then we have the gray catbird. It has a beak made for getting seeds out of cacti, and that's pretty much it. You can eat cactus seeds, which is a good thing to have. Okay, next I will be showing you some plants of the desert. As you can see, they all pretty much look the same just because they pretty much are the same thing and have the same adaptations. First we have the plains prickly pear. This has closed stoma, so that way water does not evaporate during the day, and it will store water inside those prickly pear looking things, as it got its name, the prickly pear. Moving on, we have the Joshua tree. This is a tree that does not grow very tall due to the fact that there was hardly any water in the desert, thus the name the desert. And yeah, it will grow rather short. Moving on, we have the Mojave prickly pear, pretty much same sort of thing. It has spines to keep enemies away, and will have closed stomas to make sure that its water does not evaporate. Then we have the Mojave fishhook cactus, same thing. Spines to keep enemies away, closed stomas to keep water from evaporating. Then we move on to the wildflowers. These things are pretty much useless because they will only grow during the rainy season and will die right afterwards. So yeah, they're just kind of there for viewing things. Nothing really special about them. Now I'll be showing you a energy pyramid of the desert. As you can see, everything starts with plants, which is the first trophic level, and then said plants will be eaten by insects and small mammals, such as like grasshoppers and rabbits. And then you will get to your third trophic level, where your snakes and kit foxes will eat the said small mammals and such. And then you'll go to your fourth trophic level, where hawks and mountain lions will eat kit foxes and small mammals. So yeah. Now I'll be showing you a food web of the desert. As you can see, just like the energy pyramid, everything starts with your photosynthesizers, such as your cacti and plants. Then it would be eaten by jackrabbits and tortoises and bighorn sheep, which will then be eaten by other things. Such rattlesnakes would eat the small mammals like the mice and stuff, and roadrunners would eat the insects that eat said photosynthesizers. And yeah, everything will go to your fourth trophic level consumers, such as hawks, coyotes, bobcats, golden eagles, roadrunners, bats, or Mojave rattlesnakes. Okay, now I'll be telling you some little tidbits about the desert as you get to look at some nice Death Valley scenery, starting with the fact that their deserts make up about 33% of the world's landmass. And yes, that seems rather high, but that's also including the Antarctics and North-South Pole and stuff like that, but we won't get into that. So, the desert temperatures tend to fluctuate a lot depending on night and day. During the day, it is about 38 degrees Celsius because you get a lot of sunlight, and during the night can be about negative 3.9 degrees Celsius because you're getting no light. And since the deserts receive less rainfall than there is water evaporating from the soil, or in this case sand, deserts will get a very low amount of rainfall, so about 5 centimeters of rainfall per year. And deserts, there are few human impacts on the deserts, but some impacts are like humans driving four-wheelers or vehicles through the sand, damaging certain plants and animal burrows, which could be endangered. And also a very minute, small issue is that military practices could, causing things to explode, could damage plants and ecosystems. Okay, now we'll be viewing the tundra. As you can see, the tundra is represented by the turquoise sort of greenish color at the top of the map, and these are the 6 animals that we'll be looking at in the tundra. First, we have the gray wolf. It has developed a thick fur coat to keep itself warm from the winter, and it has also developed a instinct of hunting in packs, so that way they can work together to kill more animals for their food. Then we have the lynx. The lynx is often confused with the bobcat, but can be distinguished because it has a gray pelt instead of a brown one, and has the two tufts on top of its ears. It has developed a really thick fur coat, much like almost every single other animal on this list, besides the bull trout, but has developed a thick fur coat to keep itself warm in the winter, and also really good hearing and smell to hunt down its prey. And the same goes for the bobcat. Once again, has developed a thick fur coat and good hearing and smell to hunt down its prey. Next, we have the grizzly bear, which is really has a good nose to scavenge for food and dead animals, and will run wolves off away from their kill. The grizzly bears will often follow wolves and wait for the wolves to do all the work, and the grizzly bear will chase the wolves off and eat what the wolves have done. Then we have the warbler, the horned lark. And the horned lark is a bird, and it has developed a beak for picking pine cone seeds out of trees, and will fluff its feathers up to keep itself warm. Next, we have the brook trout. The brook trout has developed a way it will swim against the current and wait for any food, berries, insects to flow downstream, and it will swim up and catch it. Also, does not need to pump water through its gills because the current of the stream already does that for it. Now I'll be showing you the types of plants of the tundra. These are the 6 plants that we will be viewing of the tundra today. First, we have the alpine larch. The alpine larch is a type of pine tree that will lose its needles in the winter, and thus they will turn yellow due to the minerals in the plant's chlorophyll. Next, we have the white bark pine. This is an incredibly slow growing tree. It will grow incredibly slowly due to the fact that there is a short growing period in the tundra. It will live really long, for a very long time. Some can be recorded to be about 800 years old. And once again, it will grow really slowly. Next, we have beargrass. Beargrass is a plant that will grow in the 1 month growing period of the tundra, and will sometimes die and not grow back for another 15 years because its roots will penetrate the permafrost, which is the layer of the tundra soil that is always frozen all year round. And so the roots will penetrate the permafrost and stay there and absorb all the nutrients from the plant, and will sometimes not grow back for another 15 years. Next, we have map lichen. This is an incredibly durable type of lichen that can resist almost any type of freezing, and will grow on really sturdy surfaces such as rocks and stuff like that. Then we have a really hard to pronounce type of moss called sphagnum. Sphagnum is a moss that will grow during the growing period of the tundra where everything is thawed out, and it will grow in moist areas, so in between rock crevices and such, and it looks rather neat. Then we have the glacier lily. This will grow during the springtime of the tundra area, and will come out in early spring when the snow is still melting. Thus it's got its name, the glacier lily, because it will grow out of snow early. Next, I will be showing you the energy pyramid for the tundra. Now, first we have, much like any energy pyramid, we have our primary producers, which are the plants and mosses that will grow on rocks or in the soil. Which will then be eaten by our herbivores, there will be less herbivores than plants. So you'll have your muskox, your Arctic snow hares, and your shrews. Then said shrews and Arctic hares will be eaten by grizzly bears and wolves, lynxes, bobcats, etc. And as it goes up the energy pyramid, less and less energy is obtained per trophic level. So plants would be the first trophic level, muskox, Arctic hares, and shrews would be the second trophic level, and bears, wolves, and bobcats would be the third trophic level. Next, we have a food web of the animals that live in the tundra. First, you'll have your primary consumers, such as snow hares and shrews, eating the plants. And then snow hares and shrews will be eaten by grizzly bears, bobcats, lynxes. And there's also an aquatic part to this. You'll have algae and stuff being eaten by krill and lobsters, which will then be eaten by whales and seals. And so everything's interconnected, just like every other food web. Now I will be discussing some little tidbits about the tundra biome. This biome can be found in northern regions of the world and also southern regions of the world. Two good examples of this biome would be Glacier National Park and Glacier Bay in Alaska. These are both national parks that you can go visit and see for yourself. Now, the average temperature in the winter is about negative 34 degrees Celsius, but the average temperature in the summer can vary between 3 and 12 degrees Celsius, which will allow things to grow and not be frozen to death. And also in the summer, that those high temperatures will enable precipitation to take place, and the average precipitation, including melting snow, is about 15 to 25 centimeters per year. And there are some human impacts on this biome: exploration of oil and gas and minerals, construction of pipelines can cause damage to ecosystems, and also buildings, roads, and buildings can put heat and pressure on the permafrost, which could damage some uh, ecosystems, because permafrost is very important in the tundra biome. And also, invasive species can reduce biodiversity. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. Next, I will be discussing the wetlands. Now, the wetlands make up an extremely small part of the world's landmass. Therefore, when you're looking for wetlands, I would suggest looking in the temperate forest part of this map, because that is most likely where the wetlands are going to be found and seen, usually in warmer temperatured areas such as the Everglades in Florida, which is the wetland that we will be looking at today. These are the 7 animals that we will be looking at today. Now, I know we've been doing 6, but it's okay. All for the collage to make it look nice. So first we have the Florida panther. This is a predatory large cat that will prey on small mammals, and sometimes even the river otter, which will also be discussed in this list. Next we have the red fox. Now the red fox, much like last time I discussed it, has developed really sensitive ears, really sensitive smell, and really good eyesight to hunt and stalk its prey, which would be like small mice and small rodents. Next, we have the river otter. The river otter will hunt in groups and hunt fish in groups. These river otters in a group can sometimes scare off the fierce American alligator just by working together to scare it away from the group. Next, also on this slide, we are going to be discussing the golden orb weaver. The golden orb weaver has to use his webs to catch its prey in its web, and knowing that it's in a wetland, it has an incredibly high density of insects and arachnids, which makes it a very effective way to be hunting. Next, we have the American alligator. The American alligator has developed camouflage and can move incredibly fast, and is an ambush predator. It will wait for ducks and waterfowl to swim down tributaries in the wetlands, and it will pop out and grab the ducks and waterfowl and drown them. Next, we have the whippoorwill. Now, the whippoorwill is a really interesting bird that has a very annoying call, which I will show you now. Now then, the whippoorwill has developed really good camouflage. As you can see, its camouflage is really well done, and it cannot be seen at night and barely be able to see it in the day if it's like in a leafy tree. Next, we have the tokay gecko. The tokay gecko has very colorful scales to warn enemies away from it, not to mention its eyes look like a spawn of Satan, and it has developed, it can move incredibly fast and will slowly sneak up on insects and eat them. It is a very good hunting technique once again, because insects are very abundant in the wetlands. Next, I will be discussing the plants of the wetlands. First, we have the prickly pear cactus. Now, cacti are not only for deserts. This prickly pear cactus has pretty much the exact same adaptations of the cacti in the deserts. Next, we have the live oak. The live oak has really is used in the past to make ships for sailing, and is very lively, thus its name, because its branches go everywhere and it can gather more sunlight because of its wide surface area. Next, we have the butterfly orchid. Now, the butterfly orchid has very bright colors to attract insects to its nectar and pollen, so that way it can reproduce quicker. Then we have the powdery catopsis, very hard to pronounce. The powdery catopsis will grow on other trees, and it's not exactly a parasite, but will just simply use the tree's bark as a docking station, more or less, to just grow and be its own plant. Then we have the strangler fig. The strangler fig will do pretty much the same thing. It will just grab onto other trees and just live there. Then we have the bald cypress, which will actually live in the swamp, and its roots will go down in the ground and come back up to form new trees. So cypress swamps can sometimes be just one big tree. Now I'll be showing you the energy pyramid. Much like any other energy pyramid, you will start with your producers, like cattails and algae, which will use the sun's energy to make their own food. Then we will move on to our secondary, primary consumers, like tadpoles, backswimmers, which are a type of water insect, snails, and larvae of insect cells, and like dragonfly larvae. Then you'll have your secondary consumers like fish and bass and other type of fish. Then you will also then move on other to bigger fish, which will eat said fish, and then you'll move on to your river otters and herrings and such animals that will eat the larger fish that are eaten, and each, just like any other energy pyramid, each trophic level you lose energy. Now I'll be showing you the food web. Just like any other food web, you start with your producers, which will then move on to, let's say, snails, water boatmen, and mosquitoes. Then said insects would be eaten by fish, turtles, and swans. And then other insects will be eaten by other insects, and the insects would be eaten by frogs, so dragonflies would be eaten by frogs. And fish would be eaten by, let's say, otters and such. And pretty much everything just is interlocked somehow. Everything gets eaten by another thing, even if it is a like apex predator. And much like any other food web, it starts with producers and ends with carnivores. Now you get to look at some beautiful scenery again of a wetland, while I get to tell you little facts about the biome and all the horrible things that we are doing to it. So wetlands can be located on the sides of rivers and river deltas. These biomes contain a lot of biodiversity and can clean water very well. They are often referred to as nature's kidneys. The climate will tend to be pretty humid due to the amount of water and plants that are in the area. And like I said before, an example of this would be the Everglades in Florida. On average, temperatures range from 23 degrees Celsius to 18 degrees Celsius in the summer, and 1 degree Celsius to 7 degrees Celsius in the winter. Average precipitation every year is about 175 centimeters to 200 centimeters. And also, some bad things that people are doing to it are like redirecting rivers, which then will cause the wetlands to dry up and will kill everything in it. And also, like in the Everglades, introduction of invasive species. A common thing you've probably heard of is the Burmese python issue in the Everglades, because the Burmese pythons will kill everything, and sometimes will even eat American crocodiles, and that's a big issue. The next biome that I'll be discussing are the grasslands. The grasslands can be seen as the orange parts on the map and is a very boring biome. Let's move on. These are the 6 animals that we'll be looking at today. As you can see, our first animal is going to be the red fox. Now, the red fox, it has a very keen sense of smell, eyesight, and has really good ears to find and to stalk its prey effectively, so that way it can not be detected and find it. Next, we have the elk. The elk has developed a mediocre set of camouflage on its pelvis, but it does have antlers to fight other males and to ward off wolves and foxes. Now only males have antlers. Next we have the prairie rattlesnake. As mentioned before, like its cousin the Mojave rattlesnake, prairie rattlesnake has venom to hunt and kill its prey effectively, also a rattle to warn enemies to keep it away. Next we have the pine siskin. The pine siskin has a beak for prying open pine cones to get the seeds inside. Next, we have the black-footed ferret. The black-footed ferret will invade prairie dog holes and kill the prairie dogs inside and save them for later to eat. Then we have the yellow-billed cuckoo. The yellow-billed cuckoo is obviously a type of bird, and it will use its bill to just pick seeds and insects from the ground and trees. Very normal. Now this is where things start to get boring. As you can see, these are the 6 types of grasses that we'll be looking at today in the grassland, and it's only going to be grass because that's all that's there. First we have the daisy fleabane. Just like every single other plant, it has incredibly deep roots, so that way when animals eat it, it does not die. Next we have buffalo grass. Same thing, incredibly deep roots to make sure that it does not die when animals eat it, such as buffalo or elk. Next we have blue stem grass. Exact same thing, except this type, it has like special seeds that will they're easier to move around. But once again, deep roots to make sure when it's eaten and it doesn't die. Then we have Indian grass. Same thing, special seeds to make sure that it can move around easily, and deep roots to make sure it doesn't die when animals eat it. And then once again, switchgrass, the same thing. It It's the same thing, just seeds and deep roots, so it doesn't die when animals eat it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I told you that grasses were very boring. Now then, we move on to the energy pyramid. Much like any other energy pyramid, you start with your producers, which are your grasses and small shrubs, which are then eaten by your larger animals, such as buffalo, pronghorn antelope, and elk. And then the elk, buffalo, and pronghorn antelope are then eaten by the third trophic level of consumers, which would be your wolves, foxes, and coyotes. And it's a very simple energy pyramid. Then we move on to the food web. Much like the energy pyramid, you start with your plants, which are then eaten by seed-eating birds, mice, squirrels, rabbits, and herbivorous insects. And then you get predaceous insects eating the herbivorous insects, and which are then eaten by larger birds that would eat said predaceous insects, and which would then be eaten by hawks, foxes, and carnivorous animals. Once again, everything is interconnected and will then just go right back to being part of the plants again. Once again, I will show you some beautiful scenery of a grassland where I get to tell you all the facts and tidbits and all the horrible things we're doing to it. So temperate grasslands can have very hot summers and really cold winters. Summer temperatures can be well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, while winter temperatures can be as low as negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. They typically have 10 and 35 inches of precipitation a year, much of it occurring in the late spring and early summer. This biome can be located in many regions of the world, such as the Midwestern United States and Africa. This biome is also usually located in between forest and a desert. As you can see, the Midwestern United States has a forest on the east coast, and then you have the grasslands, and then the southern Nevada desert. Same goes for Africa. You have the northern Sahara desert, the savanna, and then the jungles of Africa. And some of the terrible things that we are doing to this poor little biome is separating the biome due to like farmers fencing off their fields. So buffalo, elk, and other herbivorous mammals cannot migrate. Also, farmers will shoot wolves and predaceous predators because they kill off their livestock, which is not good. Also, there is a lot of development going on in grasslands, which is bad because it's separating ecosystems. But grasslands are very important. They make up about 25% of the earth, and they have a lot of biodiversity and are very important to keep healthy. That we will be discussing is the benthic biome. As you can see, that we have an example of the benthic biome shown on this map. This is the Marianas Trench. It is located off the coast of Japan, and the Philippines are just south of it. These are the 5 animals that we're going to be looking at today that live in the benthic biome. The first animal that we're going to be looking at is the barrel-eyed fish. Now, the barrel-eyed fish has 2 green eyes that look up through a clear dome in the barrel-eyed fish's head. The reason why the eyes are looking up and not forward is because the barrel-eyed fish will swim underneath large gelatinous chains of jellyfish that will have food tangled in its tentacles. And it has a special membrane over its skin that will protect it from the venom of the tentacles of the large gelatinous chains of jellyfish. Next, we have the dragonfish. The dragonfish has a ability known as bioluminescence, which means it is able to make its own light. And the dragonfish has this for 2 reasons. One is to attract prey so it can kill it, and the second is to find a mate. Next, we have the viperfish. The viperfish has bioluminescence for the same reasons, to attract prey to kill it and to find a mate. The next is the goblin shark. The goblin shark has a large shovel-like nose that has a lot of receptors to help it find its prey in the very dark benthic biome. It also has a mouth that can extend and suck prey up without the prey even noticing that it was there. Then finally, we have the Arctic jellyfish. The Arctic jellyfish has bioluminescence to, once again, attract small shrimp and animals into its tentacles and to find a mate. In the benthic biome, no sunlight will ever reach the ocean floor. Therefore, there is a different type of producer. These producers are known as chemosynthetic bacteria. Chemosynthetic bacteria are bacteria that will take sulfur in the water and turn it into biological matter. These chemosynthetic bacteria can be found in tube worms, which are located on the ocean floor, and so shrimp and phytoplankton will eat the chemosynthetic bacteria as their main food source. Therefore, they are the producer of the benthic biome. Now we have our energy pyramid for the benthic biome. Now everything will start with the phytoplankton and chemosynthetic bacteria, which will then be eaten by zooplankton and shrimp. And then once again, everything will go up to your tertiary consumers like your large mackerel, viperfish, and anglerfish, etc. And then it will be eaten by even larger fish like the goblin shark and tuna. Then we have our food web, much like the energy pyramid. You start with your phytoplankton, which is then eaten by zooplankton, and the zooplankton is then eaten by shrimp and small crustaceans. And then small crustaceans and shrimp are eaten by jellyfish and larger fish, such as like tuna. And then, like once again, tuna, viperfish, and anglerfish are at the top, and also goblin sharks are at the top. Very simple food web. Once again, I will show you some beautiful scenery of the benthic biome. As you can see, it's black because that's most likely what you would see in the benthic biome, at least without any type of light source. Anyway, so the benthic biome does not receive any sort of precipitation because it is in the bottom of the ocean. The only type of things I can think about falling from the sky are dead animals, which will then be eaten by all the life of the benthic biome. And also, its temperatures are very hard to identify because of all the volcanic vents will make it either really hot, or if you're not near a volcanic vent, it will make it really cold. So it can range from about 100 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius. Well, a little bit above 0 degrees Celsius, like 1 or 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. And also, we have not done really anything bad to the benthic biomes yet. Pollution might start settling down to the benthic biomes, causing bad things start happening with the ecosystems. And the benthic biome is an incredibly delicate ecosystem because the jellyfish and some of the gelatinous life down there is incredibly delicate, and the slightest touch can cause it to die. So we do not want anything bad to happen to the benthic biomes. And that's pretty much it. These are the 5 biomes that I'm going to be discussing today, and I hope you guys save our planet from the terrible things we're doing to it.